All right, I am excited. This is part two, fam, of being able to make our first algo strat. So if you haven't seen part one, the link is in the description below. So I need you to go ahead and watch part one before you get into part two, so you can have that great foundation, right? So in this part of the video, just to be able to recap what we went over in part one, we talked about how options work. We talked about zero DTE options. We talked about the difference between calls and puts. We talked about moneyness, and we also talked about bears versus bulls. In this part, in part two, we are going to be working on being able to lay out the foundation for our strategy, right? And understand the type of strat we want, right? So if you haven't already, I need you to go ahead and smash that like and subscribe button. It is your boy Creative. So let's go ahead and jump into this thing, right? So when it comes to algo strats, right, we can have a breakout strategy. And breakout strat, all it means is that we are waiting for the price to break out of the support or resistance levels that it has been touching, right? So for an example, resistance, bet. So for an example, so let me show you how a breakout strategy will work. Maybe if it was a call breakout, right? So right here we have a little bit, and I'm looking at QQQ on the 1 minute chart using TradingView. And TradingView is a free platform that you can go to in order to visualize the different assets, indexes, stocks, you name it. That it's here. It also have a couple of crypto things here, but nonetheless, we're going to stick to stocks and options. So right now we see a bit of a bullish breakout that is happening, right? How can I tell that? So I'm looking at the Bollinger Bands, right? And the Bollinger Bands, it represents, so we can measure volatility, right? So whenever we see the bands that are tighter together, like represented here, we see that we're on a verge of a breakout, whether it's a bearish breakout or the bulls take over, for example, but the bears are definitely trying to hold that price down, right? So what I'm looking for a breakout is that the price is doing one of three things. First is that it's consolidating around $1 to $3 of a range, right? And it's not breaking out more than that. And the way that I'm checking this is that if it's touching the resistance or the support levels, right? So if it's multiple times being able to get rejected off of the support levels, right? Then what I'm seeing is that, all right, we're on the precipice of being able to have a breakout, breakout being a bullish, or breakdown, right? Being able to have it being a bearish move, right? So that's our breakout strategy. Then we have a momentum strat. We are following the direction of the market, right? Then we also have our mean reversion strat. And mean reversion is we are fading or betting against the market. So what do I mean? Is that we see the market going up, we are going to bet that it goes down, and vice versa, right? So what we're going to be doing is being able, and there's also trend following strat, meaning we are going to follow the overall trend of the market. There's also ORB, which is the opening range breakout, meaning for the first 5 to 15 minutes of the market open, we are taking the temperature of the market and waiting for a breakout from those levels. So as you can see, there's many different types of strategies that we have here, right? What I'm thinking about creating is a simple strat, right? A simple strategy that, and you know what we can do is, instead of me having to create this, we can go ahead and bring in Claude Code, but I like my brain and I like the way that it functions. So what I want to do is a simple strat, right? A simple strat, but I want to bring in TradingView, right? Because TradingView has a lot of great resources that we can use here in order to create strategies, right? So again, TradingView, free platform that you can use in order to create strategies, right? So you see here where it says indicators. Let me just blow this up a little bit. Now you can't see it. Beautiful. Excuse me. Excuse me. I didn't want to cough in your ear. All right, so you see here where it says indicators, right? So indicators, metrics, and strategies. So these are different strategies that we can use in order to build of our 0DTE strategy, right? So I'm going to click on indicators, and then what we can do is put breakout. So you see here, there's multiple breakout strategies. Breakout trend follower. That's interesting. I haven't seen that one. Maybe I want to take that one. I don't know. So let's see if we see anything that pops out. Look at opening range breakout, ORB. See, I just told you about that. AI breakout bands. They're just using the name A. Let me see what this is screaming. And in order to see what the strategy is, right, we're going to click on these brackets or the source code. And this is in PineScript, right? PineScript is the language that TradingView uses in order to put the strategies on the chart here, or you can use it for yourself and be able to make it how you want it to work for you. So this is an AI breakout strategy, and this was created by Zimmerman or Zimmerman. Okay, that him. Control. So if you wanted to go over how this strat works, this shows us the code, right? So what I can do is control the assume, controls that assume the process noise and the position state, lower, smoother. Okay, what I'm going to do is, instead of being able to, this looks like there's a little bit of machine learning in here too because of these K level. What I'm going to do is take this strategy, and then we're going to pop over to handy dandy ChatGPT, right? We're going to blow this up a bit, and the UX has gotten a little bit. Remember, this used to be gray, right? Now it's black and yellow. I mean, I appreciate that, but I remember when this used to be gray. Whatever. All right, review. Wait, let's preface it. You are a senior Python quant analyst and a tenured professor. Review the following PineScript code and explain this to us in a simple 5 to 8 sentences with an analogy, and provide a visual. Do not worry about if there are any bugs or code issues. Just explain the strat for us. Beautiful. Put that in there. So this strategy is basically trying to answer one question. Is the price quietly trading, or is it breaking out hard enough to matter? This script first uses the Kalman filter, which is a mathematical, okay, get out my face, which is a mathematical smoothing system often used in aerospace. That's cool. Aerospace, robotics, and quantitative finance. Think of it like instead of trusting every noisy candle, it estimates the true price path underneath the chaos. That's cool. Think of it like a noise canceling headphones for the market. Random spikes and tiny fake outs get filtered out so you can only hear the actual song of the trend. That's what's up. Then it applies the K nearest neighbor, KAN smoothing layer, which compares the current filtered value to the nearby neighbor values to give more weight to similar prices. In simpler terms, it asks, where did the price behavior look like in the situation most similar to this one? It creates an even smoother trend line that reacts intelligently instead of mechanically. After that, the script measures the slope of the smooth line. If the smooth line is rising, the momentum is bullish, so we think the market is going up. If it's falling, momentum is bearish, we think the market is going down, right? Momentum going up, we're buying calls. Remember that? Momentum going down, we're buying puts. The slope acts as the angle of the hill. Walking uphill means bullish pressure. Downhill means bearish pressure. Next, the strategy builds a dynamic breakout bands around the smooth lines using the average error between the real price and the filtered out trends. When the price pushes above the upper bands, the market is considering aggressively bullish, so we're probably going to buy calls there. Below the lower bands, aggressively bearish, we're probably going to buy puts here. These bands expand and contract based on the volatility. So a little bit of Bollinger bands there. And similar to how hallway widens when the chaos gets when traffic gets chaotic. A good analogy, so think of this like a self-driving car on a winding road. The raw candles are like a shaky GPS. The Kalman filter estimates the real road direction. That's what's up. And the KNN smooths out the check pass driving patterns to stabilize the steering. The slope determines whether the car is climbing or descending, and the breakout bands are guarding, showing when the car is drifting dangerously from the normal. So this is how it looks, right? So breakout zone, we have the upper band, we have the lower band. This is the smoothed out line, right? Whenever we see it breaking up, we have a bullish. Whenever we see it breaking down, we have a bearish. So the core philosophy is the strategy is not predicting the future directly. It's trying to identify when the price behavior becomes statistically abnormally relative to the filter trend, which is often where the strong direction moves. All right, bet. So this looks like something we can take to Claude Code in order to smooth this out. So for those that aren't familiar with Claude Code. Oh, I didn't want that. Claude Code, not skills. Beautiful. So what is Claude Code? Claude Code is an AI-powered coding assistant that can help us do what? Build features, i.e. backtest, fix bugs, automate development tasks, right? It understands the entire code base and it can work across multiple files to get things done. So what we're going to do is bring in our Claude Code. So I'm using Cursor, and I'm using Cursor, the free plan, so you don't need to pay for Cursor, right? I just like their UX and UI. Cursor is built on top of Visual Studios. So I'm going to open up a new project, and then I'm going to go to our options Algo folder that we already have. If I can find it, there we go. I bet. I don't think there's nothing here. Yeah, I didn't have anything. Okay. I was working on a strategy before, so let me close that. Let me clear this. I need to get our Conda environment. And what is a Conda environment? It's like a garage for all the Python packages that we're going to need. Let me clear this. And let me go get Claude Code's command. So I want to be using the 4.6 Opus model for our work here. So what I want to do, let me come back here. I'm going to grab our strategy. So let me come here, simple strat that we pulled from TradingView. Here is the link. Beautiful. Or here's the strat. If I can copy you, that'll be dope. But guess what? I can't. Matter of fact, this is what I'm going to do. Okay, hold on. Boom. From TradingView, here is the description. Here is the strat. Then I'm going to get the description from Claude Code. Beautiful. Drop it here. Description from ChatGPT, not Claude Code. Beautiful. So we have our strat. I love it. Now, ready to move to CC, which is Claude Code. Let me copy you. Boom. So I have the Claude Code open. I'm using the 4.6 Opus model. What you're seeing down here is I want to be able to manage my sessions a little bit easier, right? So what I've done is I brought in a few GitHub repos that can allow me to visualize this, right? How much have I been using for the past 5 hours, the last 7 days, right? And how much, even though I paid for it via the subscription cost, I like to have it here so I can know how much are we burning through on the daily, right? The highest I think I ever taken is like 144, but I try to keep it under 90 bucks a day. But again, I pay for it via the subscription, via the max plan. So this is just more so for being able to manage it. So, all right, now I can show you something else too. I'm gonna bring in Codex. Codex is like Claude Code, but it's OpenAI's version. And the reason I like to use Codex sometime is because it can help me when it comes to being able to have a proper prompt. Matter of fact, let me just not complicate it. All right. We are creating a new strat. Here is the foundation of it. We are looking to adapt this for 0 DTE QQQ, right? Make sure you have context of how it works, explain in 3 to 5 sentences, and provide a visual and analogy before we get into the work. Here it is. Do not worry about the errors or concerns. What we are doing is taking this concept and adapting to options, to 0 DTE options. Take pride in your work, Bravi. Proceed. All right, beautiful. So I've submitted that to Claude Code. So what it's going to do now is just being able to say, all right, bet you gave me a lot of great stuff, Bravi. Now here's the breakdown of the strat. All right, so I'm just going to read the analogy. We already read this with ChatGPT, so I'm not going to go over that again. So think of this like a self-correcting river channel. The Kalman line is the river natural center current. The bands are the river bands, Most of the time, the water stays within the bands, but when the price overflows a bank, the breakout, the river is carving a new path. The CKNN, smooths out, that prevents the channel from overreacting to a single splash. So here's the visual of it. All right, here's how it works. For 0 DTE adaptation, we'll apply the Kalman/breakout logic to the underlying QQQ price to generate the entry signal, then express those signals as option trades, either calls for the upper and puts for the lower breakout when the ATR base stops, and anti-chasing tiered profit levels and the Kalman velocity. All right, before we do that, let's talk about how the signal will be signal entry will be triggered. Right now, what is the periods? And periods is just the number of bars that it's going to take in order for the signal to trigger, right? So whenever I say 3 periods, that means 3 bars, right? So whenever 3 minutes, whenever I say 8 periods, that means 8 minutes, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? So periods or bars is just the number of minutes that it takes in order for the strategy to produce a signal. All right, right now, what is the periods used for this? We may need to update this. Keep your response to 3 to 5 sentences and take pride in your response, Bravi. All right, right now we are in our ideation, right? We're being able to create an idea, right? We're being able to define the strategy ideas, right? Then we're going to go to backtest. All right. The defaults period are tuned for daily swing high and lows. KN smooths out over 10 bars and the slopes is calculated over 20, and the bands are built. That's too long. 100 minutes. So 10 minutes over 20 minutes. Then the hands are built over a 100-minute MAE lookback. For 0 DTE on 1 minute QQQ data, those are way too sluggish. 100-minute lookback, 100 minutes of lookback for bands means you missed the entire morning session before the band stabilized. You need to compress significantly. Think of the KN 3 to 5 bars, a slope 8 to 12 bars, and the band look back 20 to 30 bars fast enough to catch the 931 to 1030 momentum burst, but smooths out enough data that Kalman filter doesn't whipsaw on every tick. The entry trigger itself is the price breaking the upper band. Solid for 0 DTE, the volatility adjust breakout, which naturally pairs well with the explosive moves that we've seen. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with this. I think just the band lookbacks could start at 15. Let me have the band lookbacks. Good with everything, but let's have the band look back start with 15 instead of 20. Now lay out how the entry works and the periods as well. So now we're getting more into the weeds of this, fam. Okay. So smoothing out, we have 5, 20, 2.5 time. I think I'm going to make this a little bit more aggressive. Okay. I want to make this a little bit more aggressive. All right. How can we make this a bit more aggressive to start? Advice. Yeah, because I feel like this 2.1 keeps the breakout threshold meaningful to prevent the noise. That's fine. I think that could be a little bit more aggressive. And this right here, recalibrated from 200 down to 1 minute scale. Drop the brand multiplier from 2.1 to 1.6. And then shorten the look back from 15 to 10. And then lower the measurement noise from 1.5 to 0.8. Okay. Let's do all three. Let's go with all three. Then using 2 to 3 sentences, lay out what we have and how the calls and puts are going to work for this. Let me know if I'm going too fast, family. Aggressive settings locked in. Multipliers 1.6. Band look back is 10. All right, beautiful. All right, so let's talk about how this is going to work. When the QQQ 1 minute closes, punches above the upper Kalman band, we buy an at the money. Remember, we talked about that. Or one strike out the money call with 0 DTE expirations. The Kalman velocity state confirms the momentum direction, so we're not chasing a wick. That's a great thing. When the price drops below the lower band, we buy an ATM or one strike OTM put. Same logic but reversed. In both cases, we're riding the breakout initial burst where the 0 DTE gamma amplifies the moves, then exiting via a tiered profit levels before Theta crushes the position. Insight. Okay, 0 DTE Swift for 0 DTE breakouts. ATM has peak gamma. Okay, we talked about delta, right? Now gamma, let's go back to our whiteboard. Gamma equals the acceleration pedal for delta, right? So higher gamma means the rate of change for delta happens faster, meaning, remember, for every $1 or delta equals for every $1 change in the stock price, we get X delta per contract we have, right? So when we have a higher gamma, that means the rate of delta is changing, right? So if delta starts at 0.20, but it constantly goes up to 2.5 to 3.0, right? To 3.5, each one of these increases, meaning that, all right, I went from making $20 to 25 to 30 to 35, right? So that's why we're looking for a higher gamma, right? All right. Before, let's talk about the exits. This is what we are thinking. First, we are thinking that we are going to go with the following. TP, take profit, is going to be 12.8%. Super scalper, stop loss, whenever the position goes against us, I want us to be able to stop, not just being able to hope and pray, right? Stop loss is going to be 8%. Then trail arm. Now the trail is going to be whenever the position is up 8%, right? Lock in my profit, and whenever up 8%. And then trail distance, whenever the position goes down 2%, get me out, right? Get me out profitable rather than get me out with a loss. And then max hold time is 3 minutes. Got it? This works. Then what we're going to talk about next is our, okay, got it. The 3-minute max hold time is ultra aggressive. It forces us to scalp the initial breakout thrust to get out before Theta decay even becomes a factor. The trailing stop loss is clever. Once we're up 8% and the 2% trails locks at least 6% of profits while letting runs stretch up to 12.8%. The 10% hard stop loss keeps losers on 0 DTE. That roughly is $30 to $50 adverse moves, which aligns with the failed breakout reclaiming. All right. So are we ready to build our strat? You know, one thing that we didn't talk about is one thing. Yeah, we did talk about option selection. Remember, we're selecting right here by ATM. Okay. All right. One thing that we didn't discuss was do we need to set a delta min max or premium min max, or how is the strat going to select options, and which Greeks matter here so we can maximize our moves. Delta, we talked about that. Gamma is the highest. Every penny gives you maximum contract. So here's how it works. Get the option chain, filter, then premium, then select the nearest to ATM, and then execute. At 0 DTE, gamma curves are extremely steep and peak right at ATM. Even 2 strikes of OTM can have a 40% less gamma, meaning the same QQQ moves give you significantly less option price pop. The 50 floor also acts as a liquidity filter. Sub $50 contracts often have 0.5 to 0.10 spreads, which in a 10 to 20% round trip cost destroys your TP. Only thing I kind of want to drop that to a little. Okay, let's see. Let me just take it the way it is right now. Okay. All right, bet. Now, I'm gonna have it read the QQQ stock docs and then the VIX stock doc. Then what I'm going to have it do is review a couple of example backtests. Here's a QQQ one. Read the .mds. Then review the reference backtest. I also want to show you, let me show you another one. This is QQQ or SPY? This is SPY. So let me find another QQQ one. Oh, SMC. I think this was SPY. squeeze ignition. I'm trying to find a QQQ backtest. There we go. All right, we are taking slippage, fees, commission, data loading, pre-index, vectorizing from these backtests. Let's make sure we do this proper, and backtests can run smooth. Proceed with creating it here. AI breakout, baby. And then we're going to copy you. Proceed. Okay, create it here. Here is the treasury data also for Black-Scholes calculation. Let's get this done. All right, so there's a lot that just happened there, right? So let's break this down real quick. So what we're doing is I'm having Opus, right, being able to review the QQQ reference docs for the option and stock data, also being able to have it review the VIX docs, right? Then it's also going to review a few reference back tests. Then it's going to take the slippage, and to think we got the model slippage here, right? Because we don't want to overfit. Slippage is the difference between what you think you're going to get filled and what you actually get filled for, right? The difference between those two is slippage. Let me give you an example while it's actually reading out doing this back test. So slippage equals what we think the fill price will be and what the actual fill price is. So an example, right? So let's say we submit a limit order, and the reason, let me spell submit right. Submit a limit order, right? And the reason I like to use limit orders because I'm controlling the price, right? The market isn't controlling the price. There's limit and there's market orders. Let me just do this real quick. Excuse me, I didn't want to cough your ear. So market order, we pay what the market is pricing the contract for now. And then a limit order equals we set the price, right? Okay, so going. We set the price for the underlying option contract we want to get into, right? All right, bet. So for an example, so let's say we submit a limit order for 120 for a call 720 0 DTE option contract, right? So remember, for one option contract, excuse me, equals 100 shares. So for with a premium of 120, we have to do 120 times 100, and that equals $120. This is what we're going to pay for this option contract, right? And it lets us control 100 shares. Now, okay, I'll explain that later. 100 shares, right? So we submit our order, but we actually get filled at 118, right? Equals the actual fill price, right? So we have a slippage of negative 0.2. Now the slippage, remember, is the price where we think we're going to get filled and what you actually get filled for, right? Now normally you're not going to have a negative slippage, you're going to have a positive slippage, but being using Alpaca, I've been seeing that they give a lot of negative slippage, bro. So that's why I'm kind of going to stay with them. But let me give you another example. So let's say it actually gets filled at 128, right? So now we have a slippage of 8 cents, right? Now that's going to be the actual tax that I like to call it tax, but it's not a tax, right? It's just slippage. What you pay when it comes to being able to get into that option contract, right? So being able to model slippage is what I want, and it actually makes sense. So once the back test is done, I'm actually going to review it with y'all. Then once we proper understand and review it, then I'm going to stop this video. Then on part 3, we're going to pick up right where we left off, and we're going to actually run the back test, right? So in a few moments here, Claude Code should be done with being able to review it. Do it. You know what? This is where I'm going to hit the pause button, and I'll pick this up at the next video, right? Or part 3 of this, and y'all going to see that the back test was done, and then we're going to review it. We're going to run our back test, see what we're looking at, and see the strat. Is it something that makes sense, or is it something that we need to do over again? So if you haven't already, go ahead and smash that like and subscribe button. It is your boy Creative. We'll be back at it again with another episode.